Welcome to our second webinar in 2022 as part of Nebraska Farm Bureau's Inside Profitability series, a new series of webinars, podcasts, and social media events focused on farm and ranch profitability. I'm Cassie Hobel-Heinrich, Communication Coordinator for Nebraska Farm Bureau, and I'll be hosting today's event. The Inside Profitability series is a series of events focused on topics essential to producer profitability. The topics are identified by our members as ones that are key to managing and maintaining economically viable farms and ranches. We certainly hope the series will be informative and provide you with information and materials of value to managing your farm or ranch. Today's webinar focuses on managing of rising input costs. No doubt higher costs are on the minds of farmers and ranchers. In an informal Nebraska Farm Bureau survey last December, 63% of producers who responded said that rising input costs were their biggest concern for this year. And it's no wonder fertilizer prices have more than doubled. Chemical, fuel, and labor costs are higher, feed costs are higher, and we all know the success of the farm and ranch operation this year could very well hinge on how well the higher costs and volatility is managed. So today's Inside Profitability is focusing on things farmers and ranchers can do to successfully manage through the landmines of higher costs. With us today are Jessica Groskopf, Extension Educator for Agricultural Economics at the University of Nebraska in Scottsbluff, and a Scottsbluff County Farm Bureau member, and Glennis McClure, Extension Educator for Farm and Ranch Management at the University of Nebraska, as well as Corey Walters, Associate Professor for Agricultural Economics at the University of Nebraska. And I just want to let everybody know after the presentation, we will open it up for questions. If you have a question at any time, please use the chat or the Q&A function. You can type your question in there and we will answer it at the end. Or once we get to the Q&A section, you can raise your hand and we can unmute your mic for the question. And so with that, we will get the ball rolling and I will hand it off to Jessica to begin the presentation.
Well, first of all, we want to thank you guys for having us here today. And if Glennis, you want to go ahead and share the slides. Like they said, my name is Jessica Groskopf, and I'm a regional extension economist based out of Scottsbluff. And, you know, we've actually been talking about this issue related to input costs for several months now. And I don't think that it's anything new or surprising. So Glennis, if you want to go ahead and advance the slide. We have been watching fertilizer prices do this kind of upward trend. It really started to catch people's attention in the summer of 2021 and has continued to climb. And the challenge is, though, is although there's been a lot of discussion about fertilizer prices, there hasn't been as much discussion about how to make decisions through this process. And so this Bloomberg article is actually really recent, about 10 days old. And it talks about the fact that we saw some relief after we saw kind of those tax purchases, but we're yet again, as the world tries to grapple with the issues related to COVID-19 and the challenges in the fertilizer market, that we're starting to see that price per ton come up again. And so although this is a good depiction of what we would experience, on the next slide, what we'll see is the longer term view of where fertilizer prices have been. This again is an article out of the World Bank, and unfortunately it hasn't been updated since September of 2020 or October of 2020. But what I really want you to look at is the historical, if we go back into 07 and 08, we have experienced fertilizer prices like this before. Again, there's different drivers that are driving input costs, and you know that's a challenge. But today's webinar is really going to focus on how do we make those decisions. The next slide shows us that the challenge is not just in fertilizer. In fact, the Purdue barometer survey shows us that the difficulty in purchasing from suppliers of fertilizer actually has gone down slightly since December of this year, but we're seeing an increase in difficulty for purchasing other inputs, including herbicides, insecticides, and farm machinery parts. So we know that it's a challenge as we look across the board for producers to make those decisions. So looking forward, I think there are several opportunities for producers to make good decisions. And Glennis, if you want to go ahead and go forward, the first is to think about the fact that it's not just an input issue. We also have to be looking at the revenue side. And the first thing that we can do is evaluate our commodity marketing plans. Yes, inputs are up, but we're also seeing higher commodity prices. And it's exciting to some extent to be able to look at where those commodity markets are right now and decide, should I be potentially selling some grain, given the fact that commodity prices are so much higher. So my first recommendation is that we look at those commodity marketing plans. I prefer a written plan to sell grain throughout the season. The next one is to focus on optimizing and not maximizing for yield. So when we see higher input costs, it's natural for us to reevaluate what we're putting on our fields. And this really is a moment for you to work with your local co-op or a Nebraska Extension agronomist to see what is the optimal level of inputs for each product, and then also looking at what product alternatives are available for what you need. And it's difficult, there are some items that don't have a substitution, while there are others that do. And what we're seeing is as the supply for a certain product becomes tight, then so do the supplies for those alternatives. So we need to be working again with those agronomists, whether they're in private industry or they're with Nebraska Extension, to focus on that optimizing and not maximizing that yield potential of your field. More on the financial side is watching your cash reserves. I love the term that cash is king, and that's a lesson that we've learned over and over and over again. So as you go in, if you haven't done your loan renewal yet, looking at the working capital and the current ratio for your operation. Our friend Tina Barrett at Nebraska Farm Business, when she talks about farm finances, she says, not only are people not in the same boat, they're not even in the same lake. And I think this year you might not even be in the same ocean when it comes to where you're at financially. So what your neighbor can afford might not be what you can afford based on that working capital and that current ratio. And so that's the top portion of our balance sheet that we're looking at. And we need to be very considerate of the inputs that we've already purchased, what we're valuing our commodities at for sale, and then looking at that total debt load as a whole. The last one that I really encourage folks to look at is to shop around for inputs and services. And as we see commodity inputs rise across the board, we need to find places where we can cut back potentially on those expenses. And sometimes as farmers and ranchers, we are so loyal to our suppliers. And maybe this is the year where we take a look at modifying those policies or looking for different inputs that can be substituted. Now there's trade-offs in doing that, and I understand that, but we've really got to do the heavy work now as we purchase those inputs and services. Again, Nebraska Farm Business has found that when they look at their top producers, that they aren't necessarily really good at marketing or one specific area of management. What they're really good at is being 5 to 10% better in every area, 5 to 10% better in marketing and 5 to 10% lower in terms of those production costs. And it kind of gets back to, if you watch the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. And we're all facing a similar price structure, but we're not facing a similar financial standing. And so that's really important as we move forward. So next slide, please. As we continue this discussion today, we want to focus on profit. Again, there's been a lot of discussion related to cost, and I agree, costs are higher, but we need to really get back to focusing on profit. And that includes evaluating those marketing plans, managing those costs to the best of our ability, and ultimately coming to that profit equation. So with that, I'm going to toss it over to Glennis, who is going to walk us through our ag budget calculator and some enterprise budgets.
All right, thanks, Jessica. Good information there for sure to kind of set the tone. Again, I'm Glennis McClure, and I'm here on campus, on East Campus today. And really what I work on quite a bit is, I have a lot to do, I guess, with the, with cost of production. And so this kind of, Jessica and I've had various workshops where we've talked to producers along with some of our agronomy folks to talk about, there is a lot of concern about costs. And so I'd say more than ever right now, understanding your costs can make a huge difference as you make decisions, and especially, as Jessica mentioned, marketing decisions this year. I'm going to show you some information based off of the budgets that the university has produced over the years and kind of where we are now. And then also talk with you about a program that we have just started to, well, we've launched softly, I guess, over the last year and a half, but we've really got it working pretty well for cost production information called the Ag Budget Calculator. But anyway, here is, why do we have to know our cost of production? I mean, I'd say this year, again, because we're so concerned about that, how do we match up the two? What are our costs, and how can we relate that back to marketing? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, cost of production helps us, if you understand that on an enterprise level, which of your enterprises are really more profitable, and where can you put more of your investment in and more of your focus, and comparing those. As well as, are there tweaks that can be made? Jessica mentioned, the whole shopping around for inputs and so on. But I know there's some folks that are looking at, what if I switched? What if I had more acres, let's say in soybeans or whatever? I know a lot of those discussions are going on. And so really understanding what your projected costs are often can make a difference in making some of those decisions. So I just mentioned that we have for years done crop budgets that are guides for Nebraska producers. And this year we have 84 crop budgets representing 15 different crops. There's quite a few corn budgets. There's dry land, irrigated, about 25, 26 corn budgets, 10 soybean budgets, again, dry land, irrigated, all across the state. We've got, we've got sugar beets in there, wheat, a lot of different crops within that 15. And then we've added those into our ag budget calculator. Again, the university budgets have always just been designed to be used as a guide. So you can actually download a budget that fits your operation and then go in and make changes. And we really strongly suggest that. That's why we've developed the ag budget calculator, and you'll hear us refer to it as ABC, so that it makes it easier for you to go in and make changes, especially with your machinery complement, all of the machines that you're using, what your fuel costs are, and so on, and really kind of pinpoint a little bit better really what your costs are. So I show you there the cap.unl.edu. That's our Center for Ag Profitability website, and we've got the crop budgets posted there. We've got more about the ABC program there. You'll see some more references to our websites as I go along here. I did a quick little summary. I like to show this in that for our 2022, I took all of our dryland corn budgets and all of our irrigated, same way of soybeans and wheat. So I show you for the dryland budgets, and they're all across the state. So you really need to pinpoint what is closest to what you do with your practices. But just as an idea, with 150 bushel yield average, we're figuring a $2.87 cash cost and a $4.05 economic cost. You can see the soybean figures there, as well as the wheat. Then I always have to stop and ask folks when I'm talking about this is, do you understand the difference between cash costs and economic costs? I think that's pretty important. Cash is cash. And so if you're doing a cash rental, that you're going to have those figures into your cash costs, all right? But for our budgets, for what we do with university is we figure an economic cost, we figure opportunity cost of owning the land, you're paying up, you have opportunity costs, real estate taxes is cash, But anyway, the difference is economic costs include opportunity cost of ownership of land, of your machinery and equipment, and also your depreciation. So depreciation is a non-cash cost that we have to cover every year. We want to replace equipment over time. And so that's the difference between economic and cash costs. And so in the long run, you want to be able to cover economic costs. So after over a few years, you want to be able to do that. There's been times when all we can cover is our cash costs. And I've got a few slides to kind of show you what that's looked like over the years as well. So again, what makes up those budgets? Here is a dryland corn budget, number 23, read number our budgets 1 through 84. And so these are the cost elements that are in there. So land opportunity, real estate tax is a big chunk, fertilizer, herbicide, seed, and so on. You can see we have in the wheel, labor, repairs, overhead, all of those other costs, crop insurance, and so on, okay? Just to give you a sort of a picture of what makes up those budgets. All right. And then this is just from 2020 to 2022. And I want to mention that we do our budgets as of a point in time, basically. So research was done August, September timeframe on what the prices were for fertilizer, pesticides, some of those things. And so, yes, we definitely saw some increases from the 2021 to 2022. You can see it's doubled. The fertilizer doubled, pesticides went up at that point, and then we still saw some costs inch up. So you have to keep in mind that that's why you really can take a look at our budgets, use those as a guide, but then go in and make changes, pull down, use the ABC program, create your own account, go in and update those so that you can say, this is what I've paid for fertilizer and this is what my costs are. So I've got the dryland corn budget here, 145 bushel yield budget there, and the irrigated corn budget number 33 for our 2022. It was we've added a strip till budget in this year, 275 bushel yield on that one. And you can see again, what happened to the fertilizer costs and pesticides and where we were with our costs. So back in 2020, cash cost on this irrigated corn budget was 202, economic 284. You can see how that's changed over up to the 2022 level. But I also just kind of plugged in here what our prices were. And so, yes, we were back at 423 as of November 15th in 2020, 571 in 21. And of course, we don't know what that's going to be in 22. But it's important to know, like if I know I can produce my corn for $3.48, or let's say it's jumped up to $4, and I can get $6, and I have those opportunity to do some marketing, that's still a profit, and that's an important thing that we want you all to watch for, of course. Anyway, so, and then the next few slides, again, just show us kind of how, in bar chart form, how some of those costs have increased. All right, so again, I'm looking at that 2020 to 2022 timeframe. The red bar is the 2022 and cost information, and that is the dryland corn. And then here's the irrigated corn. And I just showed you some of that information on the prior slides. And then here's the dryland soybeans. So in all areas, pretty much we've got that 2022 cost level higher, and it could actually have been higher beyond that October timeframe, of course, as we know. Then I think it's kind of interesting. I looked back and took our comparative budgets. Again, some of those numbers have changed from the 2013 to the 2022 budgets. But I, pulled some numbers from what the cash cost figures were. Again, this is the dryland corn budget number 23. So the cash cost information, you can see that line in the blue. The economic costs are usually always higher because we're adding in that opportunity cost of land. If we were cash rental, we would have that. The cash cost could be very, very similar to the economic. But you can see then the price, and I used a crop insurance harvest price figures for the price there, and then show you a profit margin per bushel. So here's our corn. I don't have, of course, the 2022 prices or the margin figured in yet, but you can see kind of where that chart and how that has gone. And here's the irrigated, kind of looks fairly similar to the dryland. We do have here, so again, what we were seeing in the long run is you want to cover those economic costs. And we were, we had some challenges back in this time frame. Since then, we've had the prices and our costs kind of stay in line there. And here's a dryland soybean budget. So got those. And I think we've sent the slides, and so I think you will receive those slides. And then I guess the Farm Bureau will post those, so you'll have those to look at a little bit more closely. All right. So now I just want to spend a little bit of time just talking about the Ag Budget Calculator. And here's the website, agbudget.unl.edu. So you can go right to the program there. All you need to do is create an account, and that would be to enter your email and create a password. And then you can always just come back to your account. So you can go in and create an ABC budget right there in that account. You can start from scratch, or you can actually copy one of our budgets down into your account. So all the information in one of the university budgets will flow down into your account. You can rename it. You can say, okay, this was the university budget number 23. I'm going to rename it as my corn budget. And so you can do that. Save your budgets into your account, go back and update those as you need to. As if prices change, something changes, you've made some decisions that are different, you can go in and make those adjustments as you go along. And what's nice about it is it's always going to take, as we get familiar with a new program, all the detail that goes into it and so on. Once you've worked with this program and you have, let's say, set up your corn budgets for 2022 or whatever they may be, next year it'll be a lot easier in that you can actually just duplicate some of your existing budgets and then go in and make changes. So it's just start with is kind of a challenge, but we've tried to make it really user-friendly. I've talked to folks in some of our training programs. I know one guy said, I didn't really have any instruction. I went right to the program, started working with it, and it was pretty easy to use and very intuitive. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we wanted to have happen. So that's good. Good news. All right, so I just took some pictures, some screenshots to show you. In the limited amount of time that we have, I'm just thankful to be able to introduce this to you if you haven't heard about it already. But also we're doing training sessions. We've got virtual training, so I'll spend an hour or whatever it might be to show folks how this really works. We've got some in-person training scheduled now across the state over the next few weeks. And so if you're interested, please join us in any of those opportunities. But here, one of our key things is this is a key page where I have all my enterprises listed. So I have alfalfa, I have those all together. I've separated out my different corn fields. I can do by field or farm. Or I could put all of my crops together like I did here with the soybeans. I have all dry land soybeans, and so I put all of that together because basically all my practices are the same. Or let's say I'm not too concerned about looking at profitability from one farm to the next and that kind of thing. But you can create the enterprises as you see fit. So it's really up to you as the user to make those determinations. And if you're familiar at all with our budgets, as we've worked in the past, we have kind of worked off of what does it take to grow the crop? What are your field operations? And so here's a list of what that looks like in the budget. In here you would enter your burn down operation, you'd enter your plant. So you'd have your equipment. What tractor do you use? What implement do you use? And then also what products? So what is your seed cost? What goes into that planting operation? Same way with all your herbicide applications, insecticides, and so on. And that would be the next screen. We go anyway, field operations all the way down through combining grain cart and then trucking the grain as part of that enterprise. And so field operations, again, as you're entering that information, you'll be entering labor. So like who's doing the work, what's your power unit, what's your tell us about your planter. And whenever you see the university stuff here, so again, I've pulled down one of our budgets. So you'll see that this is information from the power units, the implements that we have in the system, but it is designed for you to go right in, change those and enter your own so that you can get a better idea of your costs and not necessarily what we're estimating. All right, and then material inputs is included as well. And then here's the breakdown. So I would enter my fertilizer and what that cost, what my seed cost is, and so on. And then how much do I apply of a particular fertilizer? So all that's there, and that's part of that whole field operations. You basically think in terms of how do I do this, and how do things go along with that. So, and then I took a couple screenshots of a report. So we actually have the reports on a cash or economic basis. You can click one or the other. There's print features. We have revenue added in, whereas before in our budgets, we did not. Right now, it's pretty static. We will be adding a feature, whereas as you're marketing throughout, you'll be able to add that information in to see sort of the bottom line profitability. And that's the next screen. But I also wanted to show you, this is that action item, the right side of the screen. So you can edit the details, edit your operations, add other expenses like crop insurance and some of those things in, change your revenue, and then the report feature. But I also want to really bring attention here to analysis. We're adding some different sort of bells and whistles. The risk analysis, Dr. Walters worked with me and our program to develop the risk analysis. And that is taking a look at, after you've developed your budget here, you know what your bottom line, and I'll just flip to the next. Here's like the bottom line in this budget. We've got economic costs of $4.11. We sold for $6. We've got $1.89 as a net return. So we've got, that is our this is our projection, but the risk module allows you to do sort of the what ifs. And so we've got where you'd click there and you'd say, okay, this is a Butler County. Let's say this is an operation there, and this is my dry land yield. NAS average was above that. But, back in 2012, there was a disaster, and this is what they had. And so you could actually say, okay, what if it's dry this year and I'm on a dry land field and it looks like 70 bushel per acre. So what are the figures? You could go in and plug in what the crop insurance information is, figure out kind of what level you'd be purchasing your crop insurance at, and really what would that scenario look like? So we've sort of added that feature in now for use. So once you've got your typical budget figured, you can actually look at then what are some disaster levels. And I know Dr. Walters Corey will talk a little bit about that in just a little bit. So again, we've got some wonderful features into our program. I've talked a lot about this already. Reconciliation, you really should account for all of your overhead and all of your expenses and take a look at, is the program doing that for you so that you're accounting for those expenses as you're looking at your enterprise costs, and pulling everything together. So you notice that I had like 4 different crop or corn enterprises. And so if I pull those all together, what's my bottom line cost of production on all of my corn acres? And so that's one of the features that you would pull into the whole farm section of ABC. Eventually, we're working on a cash flow, and eventually we'll be adding livestock budgets into it. We're looking at adding some fertilizer decision tools, breaking down comparisons between enterprises, like a lot of people are kind of looking at this year, labor mapping, and then harvest tracking and so on. So we've got a lot of those sort of expectations and what this program can do. So we'd really encourage people to take a look at it and start using it now, because we're going to continue to add more features. And I want to say too, Nebraska Soybean Board was instrumental in helping us get started. We've also received some grant funding from our North Central Extension Center to help us continue with development of that. So that's all been very, very important to what we're doing. So again, just to reiterate, we've got the CAP. There's a lot of information on our CAP website about the ABC program. And then also here is the actual program link itself. So again, we really felt like you really need to look at it. I had a lot of conversations with Corey about where we're at with the Ag Budget Calculator and how folks really need to see the whole picture. And one of the ways to see the whole picture of all of your costs is to look at your cost of production and then equate it back to that income side of things. So, all right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop share and turn it over to Corey.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some market fundamentals, and then looking at some how to manage these price patterns going up through the upcoming year, and with a little crop insurance mixed into that. First thing is the corn futures market carry. the current price where we're at right now, and the price out for December 2022 is discounted quite a bit. That December 2022 is a different market. That's a new crop contract, and we want to be reluctant then to compare today's price to that price going out in the future, and also be aware that buyers also see that, and they're also, when we get closer, they're going to have their stocks as low as possible, so they can purchase at this lower price going out into the future, as we'd expect with a new price or new supply coming on with more volume. I want to take a second and highlight a project going on that shows the role of an ethanol plant and in your area. And what we have here is on the bottom down here is profit differences per bushel. And we have 4 different ethanol plants in here. We got this color, kind of a reddish light orange, this yellow, this gray, and then this blue. These are 4 ethanol plants, in their profit differences over time from a variety of farms, and also across different elevators that are in those areas. So the point here is, on average, if you're within a distance of an ethanol plant, you can on average get about another 10 to 15 cents per bushel. And the big takeaway here is that it can get bigger and it can also get smaller. It's very unlikely to be negative, but to have an ethanol plant within a 50-mile radius is a good thing. Even outside of that is still also going to be a good thing. On the soybean side, we also see prices declining into the new crop contracts. Just like in corn, the same concepts apply, that we don't want to be thinking today that I'm not going to sell any new crop because the price is at a discount. This again is a different contract with different characteristics to it, particularly the additional supply coming on. Got a couple new crushing plants coming on here in Nebraska, in a pile of them being proposed across the Midwest. We got this $375 million, this one here. I'm still taken away by the dollar signs and the amount of bushels. 38.5 million bushels of processing, expected start date 2024. Then we had another one here in David City, around 50 million. They're going up through South Dakota, North Dakota with different crops, sunflowers, stuff, over into Iowa. Looks like to be a real structural shift in the soybean processing, and in addition to then the farms, your basis you're going to receive, and then looks like it should be incentivizing more storage as well. I want to walk through. I'm going to get to one point here real fast, and we'll. But given our large financial uncertainty with these costs that are going up, means we have more financial risk exposure, and then we have no clue of our harvest yields, whether we're going to have a situation with a drought, a pooled risk, or a localized wind, hail, flooding event, and then where these prices could go. The basic idea is that prices can follow a random path. This is what 2020 price path, a random path that's of the conditions for that year. What then happens is when we look at a lot of price paths, you get to see a lot of really cool things happening. This is 2012 right here, where everything was going along fairly normal, but prices were dropping, and then the drought hit and they changed quite dramatically. We're going to get one of these years, or something similar to it. We will never repeat, but it's hard to predict where prices can go. But we can say something about where prices can end up on December 1st, and so that's what we're going to go into here. So we're in the crop insurance projected price determination time here for this month. Corn right now is sitting about 582. I did this on Monday. It was 580. Volatility factor is around 28%, maybe a little less than that, but you get the idea. So let me show you what that means for corn. So if you take those parameters, you can actually form a distribution of where prices can end up, or the range at which prices could end up come December 1st. And so here's this 580 sitting in here, right around the median. And so prices will evolve over the season in one of those where I just showed a random path, depending on what happens. Where prices can end up in the fall, there's actually a chance they could be sub $3, sub $4. And then if the droughts sort of things hit, you know, you could be looking north of 10. Again, low probability, so it's rare, but it could matter. Where it really matters though is down here in this area that's I would think is below production costs, and how to financially survive those things. That's where insurance plays into this. Same thing for soybeans. Let's go back. Soybeans price right now is around little over $14, and volatility is in a similar matter. So we're sitting here around 14. There's a lot of variability around this, and yeah, there's a chance of sub $10 in this thing if we grow enough, and then we don't have the demand for it. But there's also you know, things can go north if there's any type of weather issues here. We could be over $20. It's hard to fathom, but it's in the distribution for November 1st. So what does that mean? Let me jump into this guy here. Essentially means that if you follow certain marketing paths, you can lower your risk and move into a better position. I'm not going to get into the details here, but marketing, essentially the big picture here is that marketing is can be very positive over time. Not one year should be defining for you. And what we see here is that actually the time path actually gives you the lowest risk and your best a good increase in profit. Over the red dot down here is doing nothing. You want to be far away from doing nothing. That means a harvest sale and no insurance. So with that, I'll just wrap up. The market price reflects active buyers and sellers, and only those. If you're on the sidelines, you're not influencing that price. Speculators right now are net long on both corn and soybeans. I didn't show that graph, but that's important because they have a lot of net long position, or a strong net long position. And throughout this year, with this increase in costs and the prices receiving and all the pressures around those prices, both good and bad, remember to trade the market that you're facing, not the one you want. And of course, revise those budgets to reflect the cost production and compare with 2022 futures. I'd recommend not looking back at past experiences because that's in the past, and we're here today.
All right, great. Well, I think we're about out of time here. So I just want to say thank you again to Jessica, Glennis, and Corey for taking the time to visit with us today and sharing all your wonderful information. For those participating, again, email will be sent out with today's presentations and links to the other sources of information. We'll be sure to include a link to the Ag Budget Calculator and those upcoming training sessions for that tool. But please don't hesitate to reach out to us for any additional questions. The email will also contain a link to a brief survey on today's program. We ask you to please fill it out. The survey will also give you an opportunity to suggest topics for future events. And I encourage you to visit our website, nefb.org, for information on the next event, which we will be announcing soon. So you can check out the information there. And if you like today's information, we also have agriculture economic tidbits on our website, which encompasses information like this throughout the year. So again, thank you, Jessica, Glennis, and Corey for joining us today. Really wonderful presentation. And again, thank you to all the attendees for joining us, and have a great day.